Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone. Sawadee Kap. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is what we call our group learning program, where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to understand the path to enlightenment. You can actually get this book for free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. By slowly learning in this program, you can gradually train your mind to get to the enlightened mental state. This is what the Buddha taught, is how to train your mind and uproot certain pollutions that are in the mind. And as you're training your mind, you'll be able to experience this enlightened mental state. This isn't a one-day journey, a one-week journey, a one-month journey, or even a one-year journey. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress to train your mind. What enlightenment is it's a mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will eliminate all the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these and others are eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by something external. You might think that it's your parents that are making you angry, or it's your brothers and sisters who are annoying you, or it's your coworkers or your boss who is frustrating you and irritating you. This isn't actually true. You can see through the teachings of the Buddha that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And because your mind is actually causing these feelings, you can eliminate them. And it comes through training of the mind. The Buddha figured out how to do this for himself with his own mind. And then he spent the rest of his life helping other people to understand how to do that same thing. So if you're interested in experiencing the peace and joy that is enlightenment, as well as many other benefits, you can actually train your mind to be able to accomplish that. And a big part of that is meditation. You wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment. You need other things besides meditation. That's why after the meditation, I'm going to be sharing a topic with you guys today from our book, which is chapter 10 that we're in today. This chapter is titled, What is Merit? You'll see what this is. It'll help you to be able to understand a certain practice, making your way towards enlightenment with this practice. But there's many other things besides this that you would need to know besides this topic. But since meditation is so important and an integral part of your practice, we start our classes with meditation. So I'm going to start with a guided meditation to be able to help you guys learn a bit about meditation and practice meditation. If you would like to join in the meditation, the way that I start is with some chanting. This will help to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you would like to chant along, you'll be able to experience that improved benefit of having chanted and be able to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of it. The chants that I'm going to be doing, they're on a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and get one of the laminated sheets, because I'm just going to be chanting along from there, and you'll actually see the English translations on there as well. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to remember his teachings. Everything that he taught was oral, so every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, and that helped them to be able to commit the teachings to memory, because the technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world 2,500 years ago. So they used chanting as a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you've been exposed to rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, and things like this as part of what people are referring to as Buddhism, that's not actually the teachings of the Buddha. That the Buddha didn't teach those kinds of things. He taught you how to train your mind and cultivate the mind, developing the mind and cultivating the wisdom. And that's what's going to help you to be able to experience enlightenment. So there aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. They use chanting solely as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So this isn't anything mystical or magical. In fact, I don't even think the Buddha created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because if you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I'm sure that the Buddha wouldn't have created these, because to go around and say, here, students, chant these chants for me, out of respect for me, right? This would be ego. This would be arrogance. And a person who's gotten to enlightenment, they don't do those kinds of things. They don't put themselves above others, and they don't look down on people. So the Buddha wouldn't have done that, right? But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. So that's where I suspect these came from, is his students, either during his life or after his death. So if you'd like to chant along, you're going to see that it helps you to ease into the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. I'll be chanting them, and you can chant right along with me if you like. For those of you guys online, you can find this on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books, and then you can scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see this daily chanting sheet. And then in terms of what I'll be doing next after the chanting is you'll hear me come in with some guidance, where I'll be guiding you, pretty much instructing you and teaching you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. Then there's going to be a period of time of quiet where we're just all meditating together. Everyone here and everyone online will just all be meditating. Now, during that period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds, because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. Someone might cough or sneeze here. If your mind craves permanent silence during meditation and you hear a sound, your mind will be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. That's your own mind causing that, because it's craving permanent silence, when in fact you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing in the world around you. So you're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So if you don't have a craving for permanent quietness, when you hear that sound, you know that it's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. This is impermanence. And you can see that the world's working exactly the way it was intended to work, where there's all this impermanence around you. So you can reside at ease and peaceful, knowing that things are impermanent. Then after that period of time of quietness, we're then going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you to understand this topic of what is merit. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times, because it's like kind of having a tool belt in your journey to enlightenment, because you're going to need these different positions at different times, because your body can't be in the same position permanently. It's just not possible, right? Because our bodies are impermanent. Different people are going to find different things to be comfortable. So oftentimes students are learning in the seated position. So I'll give you some guidance on that. But as you journey on this path, it's helpful to learn these other positions, because you're going to need them at different times. So you can sit however you're comfortable. There isn't just one way to sit. You could sit on the floor. You could sit in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you're comfortable. What I'm going to share with you are just suggestions for you to consider, some recommendations, but you sit however you're comfortable. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to kind of soften your seat a bit. And then if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you like to just do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. You could put your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people like to put their palms up, or maybe even just rest your hands comfortably in your lap. So you can just do whatever you like with your hands and arms. And that goes for anybody who's in a chair or bench or sofa or wheelchair. Same thing, you can sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed. So that's an option for you as well. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if your sternum is up and your shoulders are back. This is going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, which will help keep the mind attentive and alert, and it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease us into the meditation, which you guys are welcome to join in on. It'll help you to ease into the meditation and get more benefit. And then I'll come back in with some guidance to help you during the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you'd like to just establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโพตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. Today, as I mentioned, is our group learning program. I'm going to be sharing with you guys a topic in chapter 10 of our book that is titled, What is Merit? As you learn on this path to enlightenment, you learn various teachings that you need in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment. There's teachings that I've been sharing in this program for over 2 months now. This is actually a 7-month program. So I've been actually sharing multiple teachings throughout this entire program, helping students to understand how to get to this mental state where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. As I mentioned to you, by the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this is occurring through training of the mind. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning, growing, and developing in this life to be able to create the ideal life in this life where your mind can be completely peaceful and joyful. You do this through investigation and examination of the teachings. You then reflect on them to independently verify if they're true or they're false, and then you practice these teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to transform your mind and uproot these pollutions out of the mind that the Buddha discovered. By uprooting and eliminating pollutions out of the mind, this is where the mind starts experiencing more and more qualities of enlightenment through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. And this isn't actually true. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that leads to enlightenment. And you know that to be true because anything you've ever done has been that way. Whether it's learning to read and write English or some job or occupation, some skill that you have, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that you've learned those things. So getting to enlightenment enlightenment is the same way. You're gradually eliminating these pollutions out of the mind through training of the mind. And as you're doing that, not only are you going to experience the reduction and then ultimately elimination of discontent feelings, but you're going to notice the mind's more focused, concentrated. You have clarity and deep memory in the mind. Because when you have pollutions in your mind, you'll be hindered from that. Your mind won't perform very well. So when you uproot these pollutions, your mind will perform optimally. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. You'll be at ease because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer in your relationships. You'll get to a point where you don't even have a bad mood anymore. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience a bad mood. So 2 weeks ago, I taught a topic called the 3 poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. And this is where we talked about these pollutions at a high level. The most detailed version of this, the Buddha describes as the 10 fetters, these 10 pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. And then he provides you the tools and techniques of how to eliminate them. The craving, anger, and ignorance is a way to understand these pollutions at a high level. This helps you to understand what you're experiencing in the unenlightened state and how to transform it. So the pollutions of craving, anger, and ignorance are going to provide you the insight of being able to understand what's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state. What craving is we oftentimes refer to it as craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. This is the mind longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection. If the mind gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and others. And then there's something called neither painful nor pleasant feelings. This is like uncomfortableness, dissatisfaction, shyness would be a good example of that, right? So when the mind has this craving, desire, attachment, the wants and expectations, the mind is longing, it's chasing. It's almost like the mind has an unquenchable thirst, thinking that something external is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. It's like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. The mind thinks, what do I need to feel better? More money, that's what'll do it. Let me chase this money for a while. And now the mind might chase that money for a while. And you might get some more money and you'll be happy temporarily, but then that'll fade away. And then the mind's like, what do I need to be happy? A new boyfriend, a girlfriend, that'll solve everything. Let me get one of those. And then the mind will chase that for a while. And then you'll be happy for a period of time, but then that'll fade away too. And then you're like, what do I need? A new car, a new house, that'll do it. A new job, new clothes, new jewelry, new shoes. These are the things that are going to make me happy. And the mind will just chase and chase and chase and chase and chase. And if you form your inner feelings based on these external things, you'll only be happy temporarily. Because once your mind is no longer getting that thing, then it's going to move to the painful feelings. So for example, if you get really excited and happy when it's sunny outside, that means your happiness is based on the sun. And the sun is not permanent. So that means your happiness is not permanent. So as soon as the mind experiences rain or some other weather event other than sun, you'll experience painful feelings like frustration, agitation, or annoyance. Or if you get really happy and excited when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated or irritated. The only thing that's happened is change. And the world is full of change. You live in an impermanent world, but the mind craves permanence, wanting things to be permanent. So when you're in a relationship with someone and you're so excited and happy, well, when the relationship's over, you're sad or frustrated or you're lonely or bored or you're missing this person. It's not because of your love or your care. It's because your mind's craving permanence. Same thing like when grandma or grandpa die, or mom or dad, or brothers and sisters. The mind's craving permanence. As long as they're alive, you're getting what you want. The mind's getting those pleasant feelings. But when they die, the mind doesn't like this impermanence. It doesn't like this change. So now the mind experiences painful feelings. So the mind is doing this in the unenlightened state where it's going up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's all being caused by its own cravings, desires, attachments. It's the longing, yearning, the mind wanting things to be a certain way. And when the mind's getting what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings. It feels happy and excited. It feels like that chase was worthwhile, but it doesn't see right around the corner waiting on the other side of this is the painful feelings. Because when you're not getting what you want, your mind's going to experience the painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So when the anger is arising in the unenlightened state, the mind firmly believes that this anger is coming from something external. It doesn't realize that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So when you think that the problem is external, you'll become unskillful. You'll tend to push people away, or you'll push a situation away. This is called aversion, where you're thinking that this person is the problem, and if you push them out of your life, that's going to solve your problem. This is where you might have pushed away friends or family members in your life. But you can see it didn't solve your problem because you still get annoyed. You still get frustrated or irritated. If this was the true cause of your problem, when you push them away, you would be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the other thing you might do is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. This is where it's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. And it's like the mind is trying to fear this other person to do things your way, because the mind's trying to get those cravings fulfilled. If I can just get things my way, everything will be perfect. So the mind will be bitter and harsh and hostile, trying to fear this person into doing things your way. And these people might choose to leave out of your life because they don't like that bitterness and hostility. Or the third thing that you'll do when you don't understand that it's your own cravings, desires, attachments that are causing these feelings is you might put your expectations on people, trying to control them or force them or pressure them to do things your way. In fact, people might be doing this to you. People might be pushing you away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or putting expectations on you and trying to control you. And as long as an individual is doing this, they're not understanding what the true problem is, which is inside one's own mind, the craving, desire, attachment. And as long as one is doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all beings, because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something differently than you. There's only one person in the world that does things your way 100% of the time. It's you, right? So if you can only be peaceful around people who do things your way, you can only be peaceful around yourself. And you might find that challenging from time to time, right? So this craving, this longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way permanently is producing these discontent feelings. And when that anger is arising, it falsely attributes this to something external, and it will push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put your expectations on people. And where this is coming from is what's referred to as ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, the confusion, the misunderstanding. This word ignorance is kind of a derogatory word, and we're translating the words of the Buddha into English, and I can assure you the Buddha didn't refer to people in a derogatory and degrading way, but I still use this word because you'll hear other teachers use it, and this will help you to understand what they're talking about. But what I prefer to think about with this particular poison or pollution in the mind is unknowing of true reality, or lack of wisdom, confusion, misunderstanding. Essentially, the mind in the unenlightened state just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry because it doesn't understand craving. It doesn't understand anger. It doesn't understand this unskillfulness and how unwise it is to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people. Because whenever you put out bitterness and hostility, it's just going to come back to you. So this is the lack of wisdom that the mind has in the unenlightened state, and it stays stuck in this continuous cycle of craving, longing, yearning. Some cases you get what you want and you're happy. Other cases you don't. Now that anger is arising and you become unskillful and you damage your reputation or you damage your relationships, and now this is all coming from the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. So as long as the mind lacks wisdom, it will continue to crave and it will continue to have anger. So that's why none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief, because belief, you don't know what's true or false. You need to get to wisdom. That's what's going to antidote all of this for you, where you can see true reality. So don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. Look at your own life and see for yourself. Look at a recent time when you were angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. Maybe it was this morning or yesterday or last week. What was it that you wanted? There was something you were longing, yearning for. And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you got angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. You should be able to see this for yourself. And where you can't, let me know and I will help you. Because it's really important that you see that what the underlying problem is this lack of wisdom that the Buddha discovered that the mind has. And that's why what you're doing on this path is cultivating wisdom. You're not believing any of the teachings. You need to be able to see the truth for yourself and start practicing the teachings. And then what you are able to see is that because of this ignorance, the mind continues to crave and it continues to have anger. The craving is the mind holding on. It's these selfish desires, the longing, yearning that the mind has. And you can see this because when you broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, initially you were angry or frustrated or maybe lonely or bored because you were holding on to that person. You wanted them to be permanent in your life. But at some point you were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. In your mind, let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. Or you were like, you know what? If she would like to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and joy came back, right? So training the mind to let go is vitally important. And that's what this meditation that we just did is helping you to do, is training your mind to let go. Because when your mind's on the breath and it moves off the breath, you need to train your mind to let go. Let go, and come back to the breath, because the mind doesn't know how to let go. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to train your mind to let go so that you notice when your mind moves off the breath and then you let it go. So if 10, 15, 20 times during your meditation, you had to let go, this is actually really helpful for you. And you would like to gradually build this practice up where you're consistently meditating to be able to let go. Because now in day-to-day life, when you're noticing the anger and the frustration arising, you can let go. But if you haven't trained your mind to do that, if you haven't exercised the mind, then you're not going to be able to do that. Your mind's going to just keep holding on and holding on and holding on. So this topic that I have to share with you today about what is merit, this is also helping your mind to let go. Because that's the underlying problem that the mind has, is it's holding on and craving this permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. You need to train your mind to let go. So the Buddha teaches generosity, where you're giving and sharing more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return. By practicing generosity, it trains your mind to let go. The craving, the desire, the attachment, this will cause the mind to be selfish. It's my money, it's my phone, it's my car, my house, everything's mine, 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 and the mind will want to hold on to it. When we were children, we're typically taught to share. We're taught to share our toys, right? And we learn how to share our toys. But we don't necessarily understand why. And then as we get older and we start working for ourselves and we start putting all this effort and energy into our work, we tend to become selfish. We don't want to share with other people. We will hoard our food and hoard supplies. It's almost like an animal. If you look at an animal will hoard its food, right? It don't want to share with other animals, right? This is what the animal mind does. The unenlightened human mind functions very much like an animal. We're not animals. We're human beings. We can evolve beyond our animalistic instincts, and we can get to the point where we're willing to give and share with other people around us and find joy in doing that. But when you have craving, desire, attachment, when you have expectations, you won't be able to do that. Your mind will become somewhat selfish. So generosity is a practice that you're going to need to practice in many different places. And I encourage you to do this frequently, daily, to practice generosity. And remember, it's sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources. So let's just say you're at the market and you're buying some mangoes for yourself because you really like mangoes. Well, if you know your neighbor likes bananas, maybe toss some bananas into the bag and take another 30 seconds or a minute and you can have some bananas for your neighbor, right? Boom, you just practiced some generosity and now you're going to go give these bananas to your neighbor and this is going to be really nice for you. You'll notice that your mind is more uplifted and more joyful, right? So this is training your mind to let go. But you need to give those bananas without any expectation of anything in return. Don't expect your neighbors to give you bananas tomorrow. Just do it out of the kindness of your heart, because this is something that you're doing to enhance the quality of your mind, training your mind to let go. Then Say you're going into a store. You're walking into a store, and now maybe someone behind you is coming in behind you. Maybe you hold the door for them and let them go first. But you need to be careful that you're not doing this with any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there with the expectation that they'll say thank you and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated. You'll be annoyed, right? Your mind's causing that itself because it's craving every single person who walks through this door to say thank you, where that's not possible because you live in an impermanent world. Some people will say thank you and some people won't. Right? Maybe you say thank you when you walk through a door, but some people don't. Some people, their mind is so caught up in what they're going to get out of the store that they don't even see you standing there holding the door. So if you're standing there holding the door, do it for only one reason, because you're enhancing the quality of your mind, practicing generosity, where you're giving and sharing with others, not expecting anything in return. Because what the unenlightened mind will do is, if I spend 3 hours doing this, I want this in return. Or if I'm going to spend 3 days doing this, I want this in return, right? And you're going to need to have a certain amount of this with your salary and your job and things like this, because you need to have basic necessities in order to sustain your life. But you would like to integrate the generosity into your life where you're also giving and sharing with people around you, whether it's your parents, your siblings, your neighbors, your coworkers, your boss. You can practice generosity with even people you don't even know. And this is going to help uplift your mind because it's going to help train your mind to let go. So now in that situation where you're noticing anger coming up, it's going to be a lot easier for your mind to let go if you've been regularly training with breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. So there's a specific type of generosity that's called merit. This is something that the Buddha taught in order to help you to let go and train the mind to let go, as well as help other people get access to the teachings of the Buddha. The teachings of the Buddha absolutely work. They absolutely lead to this enlightened mental state that he's talking about. The Buddha's teachings have been around for 2,500 years for a reason, because they work. But the challenge is that in some environments, they haven't kept with the true teachings of the Buddha. There's a lot of misunderstandings about his teachings. So if you're seeing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, beliefs, and things like this associated with what the Buddha taught, he never taught any of those kinds of things. And you can see a misunderstanding in his teachings. But if you get into an environment where you're actively learning and growing and developing your mind in order to cultivate wisdom, this is actually what is going to lead to your enlightenment. And this is what the Buddha actually taught. Right? He didn't teach these rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. So you can actually cultivate your mind, training your mind. It's almost like a self-help program. The Buddha is teaching you how to do this inner work to develop the mind, become introspective, and uproot these pollutions out of the mind. And as you're doing this and you're seeing the improvement to the condition of your mind, you might get to the point where you're interested in seeing other people get access to these teachings because you know how impactful they've been for your life, that they're transforming your life, they're transforming your relationships, you're experiencing more success in your professional and your personal life. And as you're seeing that, you might be interested in seeing other people get access to the teachings. And that's what merit is where you're practicing generosity to help other people get access to the teachings of the Buddha, where you're sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources to be able to do that. Whether somebody chooses to do that or not is a choice for them to make. The Buddha never put any expectations on anybody to share with him. During his lifetime, he was a prince, destined to become a king. He was the first in line for the throne, and he walked away from that. He was already rich, right? He walked away from that because he understood that wealth and money doesn't lead to happiness. You're going to need a certain amount of money in your life in order to sustain your life and so forth, but it's not material objects that's going to lead to your happiness. And the Buddha understood that, and he walked away from this throne where he could have been the king. So sometimes when people see people teaching stuff like this, they might think that they're trying to enrich themselves. So it's important to understand that the Buddha was already rich and he stepped away from that. He actually entered into a life of homelessness where he wore rag robes and he just accepted donations from his students of food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. During his lifetime, he didn't even accept gold and silver. He didn't accept land and things like this because he was living right alongside of his students, and his students were there providing him food and clothing and shelter and medical care. So he had everything that he needed to take care of himself. So he wasn't teaching to practice this merit in order to enrich himself because he was already rich. He was teaching it because he understood that practicing generosity is what's going to lead to your enlightenment, because it led to his enlightenment. So it's going to lead to your enlightenment too. But it's not just generosity that you need to practice. There's many other aspects of your practice that you need to develop. This is just one thing. That's why this is chapter 10 in the book. I've already taught the core central teachings of what leads to enlightenment, and generosity is what's plugging into this. And you're going to need to practice generosity with multiple people around you in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment. But you need to do that from the middle way. If you practice generosity excessively, you wouldn't have what you need to be able to sustain your life. But also, if you're on the other side of that, where you never practice generosity, the mind would be quite selfish. So the Buddha invites you to come to the middle way on every aspect of your life, where you can practice generosity in the middle, where you're comfortable giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return. So that's what merit is taking this action to frequently give something more than is strictly necessary, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources, without any expectation of anything in return, in order to help other people get access to the teachings of the Buddha. Generosity in general is just giving and sharing with anybody, and you're doing this in order to enhance the quality of your mind. When the Buddha talks about practicing generosity, he talks about practicing it with what's called the Aryan Sangha. This is called the noble community. Anybody who's in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. But first, let me share this graphic with you to be able to help you understand the difference between just pure generosity and merit. So as I mentioned, you're going to need to practice generosity in order to make your way to enlightenment and train the mind to eliminate its craving, desire, attachment, along with meditation and many other teachings. And when you're practicing generosity, if you ask yourself this question, was this an offering to a teacher to support the continued sharing of the Buddha's teachings, helping others to attain enlightenment? If the answer is no, you're experiencing these benefits, that you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment from the mind holding on and wanting things to be a certain way permanently, and you're cultivating the elimination of selfishness, where you can produce this wholesome Kamma, or wholesome results. That's what Kamma is. It's wholesome results. So when you make decisions wisely, you experience wholesome results, or wholesome Kamma. When you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome results, or unwholesome Kamma. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not about punishments or rewards or who's to blame or who's at fault. It's just the results of your decisions, the sequence of events, that whenever you make a decision, either wisely or unwisely, you're going to experience results, either wholesome or unwholesome. So when you make the wise decision to practice generosity, which is giving and sharing, it's helping to enhance the quality of your mind by eliminating craving, desire, attachment, and you're producing this wholesome Kamma that you're training your mind to eliminate selfishness. So there's a benefit here to practicing generosity with anybody and everybody. Then, if you ask yourself this question and the answer is yes, well, you're still getting those same benefits, that you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment, and you're eliminating selfishness from your mind, producing wholesome Kamma. But there's this added benefit, is that you're helping others to be able to gain access to these teachings, because these are the teachings that are going to completely transform your mind and your life. And you'll be able to see that slowly but surely as you're progressing on this path, because you'll be in situations where your mind was once angry and frustrated or agitated or any of these other discontent feelings, and you'll be in that exact same situation, and your mind will be completely peaceful and joyful. And you'll know that it's these teachings that are leading to that peace and that joy in your personal and professional life. And you'll get to a point where you're like, hey, I would like to see other people get access to these teachings. So the place where you're at right now is based on merit. This land that we're sitting on right now at one time would have been owned by a Thai person. But that person, over 500 years ago, when this temple was created, had enough improvement with the teachings of the Buddha, said, you know what, I would like other people to get access to these teachings. Let me donate this land so that other people can get access to these teachings, and we can build a facility that people can get access to these teachings. And then other people came together and said, hey, let's buy some bricks and some concrete and some shingles and other things like this. So over 500 years for this particular temple, there's been people that have been contributing to the development of it. One of the ways that you can think about a temple is it's like the womb of a woman. The womb of a woman is the very best place to learn, to be able to grow into a human being, right? The egg and the sperm comes together, and without that womb, that wouldn't grow into a viable human being. So the womb of a woman is the very best place to be able to grow into a viable human being. So the temple and the environment of a temple is like a community center. It's a place to learn and grow and develop into a better and better human being. It's like a womb of a woman. And we create this womb by all of us deciding that we would like to have a place, a learning center that people can come to and learn and grow and develop and become a better and better human being. So over the course of 500 years, for this particular temple, people have been gradually building this womb. And this has been happening all over the world, right? Here in Thailand, there's over 40,000 temples. One of the ways to see it is like a mental health network. It's a self-funded mental health network where you can enter into that womb and grow and develop. Find somebody like me that can help you with your personal in your professional life to be able to grow and develop. In fact, this particular classroom that we're in at one time was very run down. This building was built in 1972 as the headquarters for all of the monks in all of Chiang Mai. And when I first started teaching here several years ago, it was very run down and it was dilapidated and it wasn't very well maintained. I suspect that people hadn't really done anything with it since 1972. You could see from the way it looked that that's essentially what we saw. But slowly but surely, students were getting all this benefit in learning and growing and developing here, and they decided they would like to improve this place. So at one time, I was teaching with this very old beat-up projector that you could barely see, and somebody had experienced enough benefit, and they were like, you know what? I'd like other people to benefit. How about if we get you a new projector? Sure, no problem. And then some other students were like, hey, you know what? When we used to meditate in here, it was so hot. I could feel the sweat rolling underneath of my clothing. I'd be sitting here meditating. It would be so hot. And then we were like, hey, why don't we get some air conditioning, right? So that people can be more comfortable when they're sitting and meditating and training their mind. And then some other students came in and said, hey, how about if we remodel the entire place? How about if we completely gut it and rebuild it? And that's what we did about 8-9 months ago. We completely gutted this entire place and rebuilt it to what you see today. This is all merit that people are producing as a way of helping other people get access to the teachings. Even this microphone that I'm talking on right now, this was something that somebody donated in order to be able to help us to be able to share the teachings with you. So that's what merit is you're enhancing the quality of the mind and you're helping other people to get access to the teachings. And you can share your time, effort, energy, and resources. Some people even just come here and take out the trash or sweep the floor or clean a toilet or something like that. And people are doing that in order to create a nice environment for you to be able to come learn and grow and develop. It's like a womb of a woman that you can enter and exit in and out of that womb as you like. And that womb is created by all of us. So this is what merit is. This is a teaching from the Buddha where he's talking about this Aryan Sangha, or the noble community, and about how to ensure that if you're going to practice merit, that you practice merit by giving and sharing with one of these types of people. What he's going to be talking about is someone who's in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, or practicing for getting into one of the 4 stages of enlightenment. For someone who's gotten into one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, they would have needed to have cultivated a significant amount of wisdom to be able to get to that point. And if you choose to interact with those types of people and practice merit, where you're giving and sharing and helping that person to share the teachings, it's actually helping you because you're gaining the wisdom to understand how to practice the teachings. Whereas if you can imagine during the lifetime of the Buddha, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people learning with him. He taught from the age of 35 to 80. Right? So he taught for 45 years. There were thousands of people learning with him, but not everybody was learning and practicing the teachings very closely. There were certain people who were practicing the teachings very closely, but there were plenty of people who weren't. So when the Buddha was teaching to practice this merit, he was teaching you to be able to give and share with people who were practicing the teachings very closely, because that would ensure that the teachings continue in the world, and that would ensure that you get the wisdom that you need in order to be able to practice the teachings. So while there's a detailed teaching here that I can explain to you guys if you'd like, I typically actually go through this, helping you guys to understand this. So why don't I do this? Why don't I read it for you, and then we'll walk through it. This is titled An Unsurpassed Field of Merit for the World. Monks, these 8 persons are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, an unsurpassed field of merit for the world. What 8? the stream enterer, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of stream entry, the once returner, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of once returning, the non-returner, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of non-returning, the arahant, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of arahantship. These 8 persons, monks, are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, an unsurpassed field of merit for the world. So what he's talking about here is the 4 stages of enlightenment. That's what stream entry, once returning, non-returning, and arahant is. The mind is actually enlightened when it's in the 4th stage of enlightenment. During the lifetime of the Buddha, that was called arahant or arahantship. Right? And that's the type of individual that would be fully awake. They would fully understand the path to enlightenment and be able to teach you how to actually get to enlightenment yourself. So giving and sharing with these types of people means you're coming in contact with somebody who has deep wisdom about the path to enlightenment and can help you on the path to enlightenment. So it's nothing mystical or magical that if you give a gift to someone who's enlightened that magically something's going to happen. It's that you get to have a conversation with this person, build a relationship with this person, and learn from this person. Now, early in somebody's development on the path, you're probably not going to be able to tell who's enlightened and who's not, or who's in one of these 4 stages of enlightenment. So the Buddha gives you kind of a shorthand way to understand this. He explains to you that someone who isn't practicing his teachings is going to have a muddled mind. What that means is that they're lacking concentration, they're lacking focus and clarity and preciseness and conciseness in the way that they talk about the teachings, because the mind is still polluted. So therefore, with a polluted mind, it's going to be muddled-minded, right? The mind's going to lack concentration and focus. But for someone who's been practicing the teachings closely, training their mind and uprooting these pollutions, you're going to see clarity and conciseness and concentration and focus in the way that they're delivering the talks about the teachings, because they've practiced them very closely, so they understand them inside and out. So they're going to be able to practice where they have concentration and focus and clarity in the way that they speak, in the way that they interact with people, in the way that they talk about the teachings. So the Buddha taught to look for an individual who's speaking in a way that is very clear and concise and precise, that their mind isn't muddle-minded. And it's important that if you're going to do this, that you don't do this in a judgmental way, right? You're not looking down on someone with conceit and trying to judge them, but you're just trying to make wise decisions about where you share your merit. Because if you're going to put time, effort, energy, or resources into helping other people get access to the teachings, you would like to make sure that the person that you're supporting is actually sharing the teachings and that they're actually practicing them themselves, because they wouldn't be able to share the teachings if they weren't practicing the teachings. So you would like to use discernment or wise decision making. The Buddha talks about this all throughout his teachings, right? To use discernment and wise decision making, because that's what's going to lead to wholesome results in your life. So if you saw a teacher or an ordained practitioner who was using profanity and hitting animals and, gambling and using drugs or alcohol or things like this, any support you give is going to those kinds of things, and you're not interested in that. You would like to see that these teachings reach the people that need the help. So that teacher should be practicing the teachings closely. So that's why the Buddha taught to make offerings to people who are practicing the teachings closely, so that it would help the teachings to come into the world, and it would help you to be able to get access to those teachings. Then he goes on here. He says, the 4 practicing the way, the 4 established in the fruit, this is the upright community, composed in wisdom, in virtuous behavior or moral conduct. The 4 for people intent on sacrifice, for living beings seeking merit, making merit that ripens in the acquisitions. What is given to the community bears great fruit. What he's talking about here is he's saying the upright community. During his lifetime, you might think that he was the only person teaching, because if a Buddha lived during your lifetime, you'd probably like to learn with that Buddha, right? But not everybody knows who a Buddha is. Not everybody understands how to identify a Buddha. So he knew he was a Buddha, and the people who were studying closely with him, they knew that he was a Buddha, but not everybody knew that he was this fully, perfectly enlightened Buddha, capable of helping guide countless people to enlightenment. So there were other other people who were teaching and claiming that it was their teachings that led to enlightenment. But the Buddha knew it was his teachings. So he referred to his community of students as the upright community or the straight community, because he knew that these other teachers and these other teachings weren't leading to enlightenment, but it was his teachings that would lead to enlightenment. So he referred to his community of students as the upright community or the straight community. And he says that this community is composed in wisdom, in virtuous behavior or moral conduct. So he's saying people that are interested in seeking this merit and seeing these teachings continue by giving to this type of community where they have deep wisdom, that you're making merit that ripens in the acquisitions. What that means is it ripens in you acquiring those same mental states, those same 4 stages of enlightenment, that you come in contact with these people who have deep wisdom, and now you can acquire those mental states as well. Then he says, what is given to the community bears great fruit. What he's talking about here is anytime you're making an offering to a teacher, they should use a small portion of those funds in order to be able to support their life and the basic necessities that they need in order to support their life. But you should see offerings coming back to the community. You should see that there's a meditation center, a learning center, that there's a comfortable environment, that there's teachings and resources to be able to help you. And you should see that the teacher is willing to do this at no cost whatsoever, because the Buddha didn't teach to put prices on courses or charge students to learn, because everybody needs access to these teachings. And as soon as you put a price tag on these things, then it has certain disadvantaged beings that can't get access to these teachings. And we might say that those disadvantaged beings actually need the teachings the most. People who are in poverty, people who are struggling in life, you could say that they actually need the teachings the most because they're struggling the most. So as soon as we put a price tag on our courses and our retreats and our teachings, it blocks these people from being able to actually get access to the teachings. So the Buddha taught to give and share the teachings as a teacher at no cost, to be able to make it open for everybody and anybody to be able to get access to the teachings. And then as students are making offerings to be able to support the sharing of the teachings, that we use a small portion of that to help ourselves to be able to sustain our life, but we give back to the community, making sure that the community is getting the wisdom that they need in order to improve their life. So if it's the community that's creating this womb, and then there's teachers and ordained practitioners that are in this womb growing and developing, well, now those teachers that are cultivating the wisdom about how to get closer and closer to enlightenment should be giving back to the students. The Buddha calls this mutual support, and you'll see a teaching from him on that as well. So again, the Buddha here isn't teaching you this generosity in order to enrich himself, because he was already rich. Instead, he was teaching to give back to the community and make sure that the wisdom comes into the community to learn and grow and develop. Here in Thailand, they actually take this very seriously. There was a case several years ago where there was an ordained practitioner who wasn't doing what I'm talking about here, that this individual was enriching themselves. They were buying Fendi bags and Gucci sunglasses, and they were renting, chartering airplanes and renting the private airplanes to fly around Thailand. And they were putting it all over Instagram and Facebook and all this other kind of stuff. So the Thai people found out about this, and they actually went to arrest this person. And this person had left, and they ran away. They went to the USA. And the Thai government, the police, put out an Interpol warrant in order to arrest this person. They were arrested in California. They were extradited back to Thailand. And then they went through the court system, and they were found guilty of fraud and frauding the people, that they were taking in all this money and enriching themselves. And they were sentenced to 20 years in prison. Right? So here in Thailand, they understand that anybody who's sharing the teachings of the Buddha, that there should be offerings coming back to the public, and this person shouldn't be enriching themselves as part of this generosity. And when somebody chose to do that, the Thai people took action to make sure that that was stopped. So the Thai people take this kind of thing very seriously, and you should also look at your own wise decision making, that if you're going to support somebody, be sure that you're supporting somebody that actually is sharing the true teachings of the Buddha, and you should be able to see that through their own practice. You should be able to see that whatever they're teaching, they're practicing those same things, and you should see their minds very clear and concise and focused when they're actually sharing the teachings. So there's this practice of generosity that the Buddha shared in order to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, because that's what's going to eliminate your discontentedness, where the mind is no longer experiencing the anger, sadness, frustration, and other discontent feelings. The Buddha refers to this as eliminating the stain of selfishness. He calls it a stain in the mind, a pollution of mind. So as you're developing confidence in the Buddha and in the teachings, and you see that they're actually working, you're starting to eliminate more and more doubt in your mind, this is where you might decide to support the teachings so that other people can get access to them. There is a misunderstanding about merit that exists all throughout the world, even here in Thailand, that sometimes when you go to make an offering to an ordained practitioner, they might actually gesture for you to go get this little urn of water, and then as they're chanting, they will pour this urn of water. You would pour this urn of water out into a little bowl. And it's a little ceremony, it's a little ritual, that what they're thinking is that if you make an offering and you're producing merit, that when you pour this water out, it's transferring the merit to your relatives or to your dead relatives. Well, that's a really nice thought, the fact that, you could do something and then give it to somebody else, but you can't actually do this. It's not actually possible for you to transfer your merit to somebody else. Because if you understand the benefit of merit, which is enhancing the quality of your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, you can't transfer that to somebody else. It's not possible. So whenever you see a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or anything like that associated with the teachings of the Buddha, you know right away it's not the teachings of the Buddha. And the idea of transferring your good deeds to somebody else is just not possible. When you make a decision to do something wisely, you're going to experience the results of that. Just like when you choose to do things unwisely, you're going to experience the results of that. You can't transfer that to somebody else. It's not possible. So if you see these kinds of things going on, whether you choose to do it or not, it's your choice. Everything in life is your choice. But just understand that that's not a part of the teachings of the Buddha, and it's not possible to transfer your merit to somebody else because you're enhancing the quality of your mind, and you can't transfer that benefit to somebody else. Here's a teaching from the Buddha where he's talking about if you would like to make an offering, that there's 3 things that you should consider. And he's talking to a female here because there was a female who asked him a question. That's the way that the Buddha would teach, is that whenever someone would ask him a question, he would teach, right? So this female asked him a question about how to make an offering. And he said that there's these 3 factors that you should consider in making an offering. That before you make an offering, that your mind's joyful. In the act of giving, the mind should be joyful and calm and confident. And then after the offering, the mind should still be joyful, right? So this is a way to protect the mind, that before you make an offering, think through your offering about what it is that you're going to offer, right? And then while you're making your offering, then be calm and confident in your offering. Then after the offering, your mind should still be joyful, because you can get to the end of your offering and you can have remorse. You can be like, oh my goodness, why did I give so much? I'm not going to be able to pay my rent now, or I'm not going to be able to eat food. Oh my goodness, why did I give so much? You could be remorseful. Or you could have the other side of that. Why didn't I give more? Gosh, I'm so selfish. I should have gave more, right? I should have given more food or more time or more energy or whatever it was. So what you would like to do is think through your offering so that before you even give your offering, you're already joyful, right? This is practicing the middle way. And now when you're making your offering, your mind's calm and confident. And then afterwards, you can still maintain your joy, right? You don't have remorse at the end of your offering. Then the Buddha says, in terms of the people that you should make offerings to, in addition to the one that you saw previously, here he's talking about making an offering to someone who's free of craving, anger, and ignorance. If someone's free of craving, anger, and ignorance, they're enlightened, right? Their mind is free of pollution, right? And there's things that you'll see. You'll notice that they're never angry, they're never frustrated, never even slightest bit annoyed or irritated, because their mind's completely liberated and free. So the Buddha is saying to make offerings to people who are enlightened, right? But then also people who are practicing for the removal of craving, anger, and ignorance. So that ordained practitioner, or even a teacher like me, I'm not ordained, but even a teacher like me who's standing on the street corner smoking a cigarette, chatting it up with their buddies, hitting animals and things like this, they're not practicing for the removal of craving, anger, and ignorance, right? They're out there doing all these unwise things that their mind is still having longing, yearning, and craving in the mind, right? You see them being bitter and harsh and hostile in their speech, their anger and hostility hostility is coming out. That's not what the Buddha is teaching you to support. He's teaching you to make wise decisions about who to support. So I gave you guys some guidance on how to do that. So these are some things to keep in mind if you decide that you would like to make an offering. When the Buddha taught during his life, he taught many different topics about how to get to enlightenment. His teachings are very detailed, very comprehensive. You can approach them and you can learn them gradually, and you'll see that they're improving your mind. But at one point, there was a student who asked the Buddha to boil his teachings down to something simple that this person could teach, or this person could practice on a day-to-day basis. And when the student asked the Buddha this, the Buddha gave this student 3 things to do on a daily basis in order to make your way to enlightenment. There's other detailed teachings that you would need, but this is what you would like to be doing on a day-to-day basis. The Buddha taught that practicing generosity, improving your moral conduct, and practicing meditation are the 3 things that you would like to be doing on a daily basis in order to make your way to enlightenment. There's more beyond this that you would need, because you need to know what is the moral conduct, what is the meditation. You need those details. But this is what's called the way of practice. Your frequency of these things is more important than the amount. Right? So if it came to generosity and you were going to give $500 once a year to an orphanage, it would be better for you to give $1 a day, because your mind is actually having to let go more frequently. And this is going to be more impactful to your mind and help enhance the quality of your mind. So it's helping you to let go, let go, let go, let go. That one gift once a year, okay, great, but it's not going to be as impactful as every single day letting go, right? Same thing with your moral conduct. Every single day, you like to be improving your moral conduct. As long as you're out in the world being bitter and harsh and hostile and aggressive with people, as long as you're putting that out, that's going to be coming back to you. You can see in your relationships where you're bitter, harsh, and hostile, those people are bitter and harsh and hostile right back with you. So as long as you're putting out unwise moral conduct, you're going to keep experiencing this coming back to you. It's kind of like if an oil pipe had busted and spewed oil all over the world. You're not going to go clean up the mess on the ground first. You're going to shut down the oil pipe so it's not continuing to spew oil all over the world, right? So your moral conduct, if you're making unwise decisions about that, it's like spewing oil all over the world, and you'd like to shut that down as soon as possible. So the Buddha teaches you to pay attention to your moral conduct. And there's teachings in the Eightfold Path, which is his core central teaching that I've already taught in this program, that's going to help you to understand how to improve your moral conduct. It's part of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And if you haven't learned that, it's okay, because it's in our books. It's been recorded many times on our YouTube channel, on our podcast. I teach this topic many times throughout the month, and you can easily learn it to be able to improve your moral conduct. Because once again, as long as you're putting out unwise moral conduct, it's all just going to come back to you. So you'd like to pay attention to your moral conduct and improve that on a daily basis. Then practicing meditation daily, 2 or 3 times a day, building up to 30 minutes of meditation per session. This can sound like a lot for some people, depending on what you've got going on in your life. But you probably have some unbeneficial things that are going on that if you reduce those or eliminated those, that you'd have more time to be able to do things like meditation. And once again, frequency is more important than the amount. If you had a decision to make where it was 1 meditation for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, the 2 for 15 is actually going to be more beneficial, because your mind's more frequently having to let go, let go, let go. So throughout your days and weeks and months and years, you would like to gradually build up this practice where you're regularly meditating. And if you start with just 1 minute, fine, start there. That's where I had to start. My mind was so polluted when I started on this path. It was like a brick wall. It was like so congested in there. I couldn't meditate for more than about a minute. And that's where I started, right? And then gradually that became 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then gradually it expanded. You don't need more than about 30 minutes of meditation per session. And if you're doing meditation in the way that the Buddha actually taught, you'll find it challenging to do much more than that, because it's quite impactful to the mind and quite challenging. Whereas if you're doing meditation in a way that the Buddha didn't teach, you might be sitting around for hours upon hours upon hours trying to meditate. It's kind of like if you went to the gym You could go to the gym and spend 6, 8, 10 hours there, but you're probably watching TV, you're probably chatting on your phone, you're probably chatting it up with some of the other people in the gym. You're not really getting a good workout. You're just kind of meandering around, kind of wandering around the gym. Or you could go into the gym, do your 30, 45-minute workout and get out of there, and then you're off on the rest of your day, enjoying whatever it is that you would like to do in your day. And that's what you can be doing with meditation. You get in there, you do your work, and you get out. Right? You don't need to sit there and meander around for 6 hours or 8 hours. So you'd like to build up a sustainable practice where over a consistent long-term period of time, you can be regularly meditating. And that's what the Buddha teaches you, is to regularly meditate. And you're going to miss meditations here and there. It's normal. That's impermanence, right? Your enlightenment isn't going to be determined based on whether you missed meditation today or not. Your enlightenment is going to be determined that if you miss meditation today, what do you do next? Right? Does that become, 3 days that you've missed meditation, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years? Or do you notice, I missed meditation today. Let me get right back into it, right? And you start doing it. So if you're doing 2 or 3 meditations a day, that's about 60 meditations a month. Well, if you do 52, 53, 54, you're going to make your way to enlightenment. So you just need to consistently be meditating over a consistent long-term period of time. So this is what you would like to pay attention to. Practicing generosity consistently on a daily basis, improving your moral conduct on a daily basis, looking at the Eightfold Path to understand that, and then regularly practicing meditation. And then there's courses and programs and retreats that are going to help you to learn how to do that. And it's this generosity of producing merit that allows people to actually learn the moral conduct and meditation. If we weren't supporting the teachings of the Buddha to come into the world and create this womb for people, we would have never learned the moral conduct or the meditation. So this generosity really helps to allow the teachings to come into the world. So here's a teaching from the Buddha on generosity that was really impactful for me when I first learned it. So I share it with people when I teach this topic. So this one is titled, If Beings Knew the Results of Giving and Sharing. Monks, if beings knew, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would the stain of selfishness obsess them and take root in their minds. Even if it were their last bite, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared it, if there was someone to share it with. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given, and the stain of selfishness obsesses them and takes root in their minds. So what's this result of giving and sharing that the Buddha knows that other people do not know? But if they knew the results of this giving and sharing, they would not eat without having shared it. When he's talking about the results of giving and sharing that he knows that other people don't know is enlightenment. If you knew that enlightenment was so peaceful and so joyful, and you knew what that quality of mind was like, and you knew that it was generosity that's going to help you to be able to get there, you wouldn't eat without having shared it, because you'd be interested in experiencing that peace and joy of the enlightened mental state. So the Buddha knew about this peace and joyful mental state of enlightenment that other people didn't know about. And because of that, they continue to hoard their food or hoard their supplies or hoard these other things. Here in Asia, we typically put the food in the middle and everybody shares food. This is how we tend to eat. You take 2 or 3 spoonfuls, you put it on your plate, and then you eat, and then you put another 2 or 3 spoonfuls on your plate, and then you eat. So in an environment like this, where not everybody has enough money to be able to buy food, if you're a family of 4, a family of 6 or 8, if all the food goes into the middle and everybody's sharing 2 or 3 spoonfuls, at the end of this meal, maybe everyone's not full, but we all got a little bit of food, right? That's basically where this is coming from, right? So we all get a little bit of food, we're sharing it. Where in other places, we don't necessarily eat that way. It's kind of like my food, and we kind of hoard our food, right? Where what you can actually do is you can give and share. You can put your food in the middle and you can share it with other people. So say you go to 7-Eleven and you get a bag of potato chips, and you come back and you're around your friends, pop open your bag of potato chips, send it around the circle. And maybe if you get the bag of potato chips back and there's only 1 chip in there, eat your 1 chip and go get another bag. right? No harm, no foul. You can actually enjoy sharing with other people. And it's like, wow, you can share your food and you can experience this letting go where you're not hoarding things. Because that's what animals tend to do, is they tend to hoard food. But we're not animals. We're human beings. We can evolve beyond that, where we can give and share with other people. So the Buddha is talking about eliminating this selfishness. Here he's talking about the gifts of teachings is superior than gifts of material things. Monks, there are these two kinds of gifts, gift of material things and a gift of the teachings. Of these two kinds of gifts, this is supreme, a gift of the teachings. There are these two kinds of sharing, sharing of material things and sharing of the teachings. Of these two kinds of sharing, this is supreme, sharing of the teachings. Of these two kinds of assistance, assistance with material things and assistance with the teachings. Of these two kinds of assistance, this is supreme, assistance with the teachings. So what the Buddha is saying is the very best gift that you could ever give to anyone is the gift of these teachings, because this is helping someone to be able to escape the anger, the sadness, the frustration, the despair, the misery that the mind experiences in the unenlightened state. So for example, if there was a button that you could press, like button A, and you could press it and your family would be bitter, harsh, and hostile and vindictive and resentful for the rest of their life, or you could press button B where they'd be completely peaceful and joyful for the rest of their life, which button would you press, A or B? B? Yeah, you press B, right? Unfortunately, it's not just a button we can press, right? But what the Buddha is explaining to you is that sharing of the teachings is the very best thing that we could ever give our family, right? We can give our parents houses and cars and jewelry and money and things like this, but that is all temporary, right? The gift of the teachings, by gaining the wisdom of how to train your mind and get to enlightenment, that's a gift that is going to really be impactful for their life. And you might not be able to give the gift of the teachings at this point because you don't know the teachings yourself. Maybe you can give a book. Maybe you can share a link to a video or a website. Nothing about this path is about going out into the world and convincing other people to do things. This path is all about your own growth and your own development. But having the teachings available for people to be able to get access to them is the gift that we can give. And that's what merit does, is it makes the teachings available for other people to be able to get access to them. So here's the last one that I'll share, and then I'm going to stop and open up for questions and kind of in class there. So if you guys have questions, we have microphones here where you guys can come get a microphone, take it back to your seat. You can press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on. And you just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online too. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can just keep this microphone with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share it with them. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, then we won't get feedback through the speakers. For anybody who's online, whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting that into the comment section, or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you to be able to ask questions. So here the Buddha says, mutual support between monks, Brahmins, and householders. By the way, let me just give you some background what a Brahmin is. You might not know what a Brahmin is. A Brahmin during the lifetime of the Buddha was what we might refer to as a Hindu priest. This person was responsible for doing rites or rituals and ceremonies of worship. The average person was taught that you can improve your life. They were taught that you had to go to these special people, pay them money, and then they were going to do a ceremony or ritual, and your life was supposed to get better. And the way that you became a Brahmin is that you were born into that family, and people were considered to be holy if you were born into this family. So as you can see, this bred corruption, because people would come to these Brahmin and they would say, hey, I need you to do this ceremony for me. And they're like, all right, that's $5. And you're like, all right, you do this ceremony, you go home, your life doesn't get better because that's not the way your life's going to get better. And now you come back and they say, hey, I need you to do this ceremony again. Oh, now it's going to be $20. Well, why? Well, because I said so. And you can't do anything because you were taught that you can't do anything to change your life. So the Buddha knew that this wasn't true, that the way that you improve your life is through cultivating wisdom and making wiser decisions in your life. That's the way you're going to improve your life, not through rites or rituals and ceremonies of worship. So these Brahmin, while they were doing all these rituals and ceremonies and collecting money for it, they would sometimes come to the Buddha for guidance, and they would sometimes learn with the Buddha and learn his teachings. So here, the Buddha is talking to his monks. He's saying, monks, Brahmins and householders, that's a household practitioner, are very helpful to you. They provide you with the requisites of robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicines in time of sickness. And you monks are very helpful to Brahmins and householders as you teach them the teachings that are good in the beginning, the middle, and the end, with the correct meaning and wording. And you proclaim the spiritual life in its fulfillment in complete purity. Thus, monks, this spiritual life is lived with mutual support for the purpose of crossing the flood and making a complete end of discontentedness. So he's talking about this mutual support, that the students are supporting the teachers to be able to share the teachings, but then the teachers are supporting the students to be able to help them grow and learn and develop. This has been in place ever since the lifetime of the Buddha. Because if you can imagine people being really close to the Buddha, if they were learning and practicing the teachings, and then they became enlightened, where their mind is completely peaceful and joyful, if they had this life on the side where they were making money at some business, why would they ever be dedicated to sharing the teachings with you? They wouldn't necessarily be interested in doing that. So the Buddha taught the people who were practicing the teachings and interested to be teachers is to give up your worldly life in pursuit of a career and all these kinds of things, and devote your life to your own development of your own practice and sharing the teachings with other people so that they can get to enlightenment too. So you can get to enlightenment living your household life, whether you're working or retired or whatever stage of your life you're in. You can get to enlightenment from the household life. You don't have to be ordained or give up your worldly life in order to get to enlightenment. But for the people who decide that they're going to share the teachings, they need to be accessible so that their students can get the help that they need. Not only do we spend time writing books and preparing talks to be able to share the teachings, but we also give personal guidance, and we sit down with students on a one-on-one basis, because you can learn in classes like this, but then it's applying the teachings in your day-to-day life that you need to be able to learn how to do. So if I teach you how to speak in a way that's wise, that doesn't cause harm, well, you might learn that intellectually in a class, but then when you talk with your mom or your dad or your brothers and sisters, you might have a lot of trouble with speaking to them in a wise way that would be gentle and warm and loving. So you're going to need help to sit down with the teacher to be able to learn that. So a teacher is an individual who's sharing the teachings with you like a tour guide. They're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and grow and develop, but it's you that's doing the work. You are your own independent practitioner, learning and growing and developing on the path. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee or anything like that. You're an individual who's interested in cultivating wisdom and training your mind, and you're in your own independent journey. And a teacher is essentially like a tour guide. So if we would like to have these teachers in our community, the Buddha is teaching to be able to support them so that they can share the teachings and they can let go of this worldly life and now move into a life where they're actually sharing the teachings and accessible for you to be able to learn the teachings. And then there's this mutual support that those individuals would then be wise to help their students to be able to share wisdom of how to grow and develop on the path. So this is the topic of merit, and this is what I have to share here. I'm just going to see if you guys have any questions on this topic of generosity and merit and improving your mind to get to enlightenment. You guys can ask any and all questions that you like. Remember, we have the microphones here, and then for anybody online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. So any and all questions you guys would like to ask, feel free to ask. I see you looking at the microphones. Would you like one? I see you checking them out. No? Oh, not you, Steve. There was a person behind you. But Steve has a question, looks like. This gentleman as well.
Oh, thank you, David. So it is I find this a slightly tricky one. Mm-hmm. Generosity is very clear, giving without any expectation of anything in return. But sometimes, and just informally, whatever, the word merit, I mean, it's a positive word. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's presented as, I will receive merit mm-hmm. by doing this particular activity. Mm-hmm. And I guess the first question is in the one about the Buddha, a few slides back, he says, the one about creating merit for the world.
Oh, back here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unsurpassed field of merit for the world. Whereas often, I would argue, from my limited experience, that sometimes it's presented that I will earn merit. You know, like I might get a special way to extinguish unwholesome karma. Oh, okay. But up on that. You know, in the Catholic Church, you know, they have the concept of intercession, where if you pray to this saint or this particular prayer, you know, for your loved ones, you know, you can cut their time in purgatory or get them out of hell or get, you know, that sort of thing, or for yourself. And, you know, in centuries past, the bishops used to sell this. You know, they go around Europe and say, you know, if you donate this much, you can cut this much off your time in purgatory, or if you pay even more, you can get a guaranteed VIP access to heaven. Of course, nonsense, but it was a big deal, and one of the main motivations of Luther to attack the Catholic Church. But that's another topic. But again, this concept is it conjures up the idea that generosity, giving without expecting anything in return. But here, I'm giving, but I'm going to earn merit. It's a tricky area, and also, again, it's a minefield for corruption on both sides, because you know, I've only been in Thailand a little while, and I see numerous articles about, you know, embezzlement of funds from temples. So I guess one practical question. Do I earn merit? I know then you can say, well, the I doesn't exist, but leaving that.
Yeah. So what the merit is the enhancement to the quality of the mind, and the merit is the wisdom that you're gaining through coming in contact with somebody that you can then talk with to be able to understand the teachings. That's the merit. Right? It's not that you're buying your way into some particular place, because merit is the time, effort, energy, and resources. So for example, like let's just say this happens sometimes, people come here and they will sweep the leaves of the temple, right? Because we have all these trees, and people will sweep the parking lot and they will clean up the leaves, right? So they're practicing sharing their time, effort, energy, and resources. Their mind is training to let go, that they're not just hoarding their time for themselves and self-indulgent in these kinds of things, that they're training their mind to be able to share with other people. And now while they're here, their mind is being trained to let go, right? So that's the enhancement to the quantity of their mind. And then also they have the opportunity to come talk with people who are here that can help them on the path. So now maybe they're struggling in their schoolwork or their relationships with their family. They can come in and talk with somebody that's going to help them. So when you're practicing to cultivate merit, you're practicing to enhance the quality of your mind, and you're practicing to acquire wisdom that's going to help you on the path. And you should be able to see that improvement in this life, where like what you're talking about there is buying your way into something later that you have no idea even if this is going to work, because it's a belief, and it's more in line with what the Brahmin did, right? The rituals and ceremonies, where the Buddha is helping you to be able to see this merit is improving your life now in this life, and you'll be able to see that that's occurring. So that's what the merit is the enhancement to the quality of the mind and the cultivation of the wisdom. And that's what's going to help you to be able to see the improvement as you're making your way forward, because your mind's going to be becoming more and more peaceful and more joyful through cultivating that wisdom, and through enhancing the quality of the mind to train it to let go. You'll see that the mind in your life is becoming more and more peaceful as a result. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, sir. Sounds like it's not on yet.
Potentially now is on. There we go. Thank you, David. Yeah, I found it really interesting with regards to merit, and I think with regards to the transferring of merit through ritual and things like that. But is it capable to, if you develop your own merit or grace or certain qualities, that in the engagement with other people, that you can potentially transfer some of that to that individual, or allow for a different kind of interaction with that individual? And my other question was with regards to
Let me just answer one at a time. So you actually can't transfer any kind of wholesome qualities to another person, because each individual person has to choose for themselves out of their own wise decision making to cultivate those wholesome qualities. It'd be wonderful if we could, because all of us would get together and we would meditate or do whatever it is that we could do, and there wouldn't be any murders or rapes or prisons or racism or sexism or any of this stuff in the world, because we would all abolish it all, right? But we can't do that. We can only change our own mind. We can't change other people's mind. But by you becoming more and more wholesome, more and more wise, and functioning in a more morally responsible way, the people around you can choose for themselves to be influenced by that. And now they can say, I really like how this person does this or does that. I think I would like to practice some of those qualities too. And that's where you can be influential. But you shouldn't go out into the world with the expectation that this is what you're going to do, but just know that that is happening, that by you becoming a better and better human and a better individual, it will influence the people around you, but it's their choice that's allowing that to happen, because they're choosing to cultivate those qualities. One of the things that I say typically, here and there, is I'll say, you're getting to enlightenment is the very best thing you could do for yourself, those around you, in all of humanity. Because by you becoming more and more enlightened, the people around you are going to learn those qualities, and there's going to be people who choose to adopt those qualities. And you can see that as you start transforming your life in your mind, the people around you will learn from that. But they're doing that through their own choice of cultivating the wisdom and using you as a role model or an example of how to do that. But it's ultimately their choice to do that. We can't force someone to do that.
Thank you, David. My other question was with regards to the Buddha pre-enlightenment. I don't know if there was any challenges that he came across or things that he spoke about with regards to where he had issues to merit in developing that pre-enlightenment. Say with Jesus in the Bible, it's just kind of like he's always good kind of thing. There isn't as much challenge before he reaches his stage. So does the Buddha ever talk about that?
Yeah, there's all kinds of challenges that every unenlightened being will experience prior to enlightenment. I haven't seen much of that talked about in his teachings. I'm sure he discussed it during his day-to-day life, because the teachings that we have, it's the largest, most complete collection of his teachings, is called the Pali Canon. We know that that's not everything that he taught, because we can see that he's referring to certain things that he taught, but it's just not in the Pali Canon. So we know that it's not everything, but we know the teachings to be able to get to enlightenment. So everything that he taught isn't in the Pali Canon, but we know all the teachings that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. So I haven't seen in the Pali Canon that he taught that it was documented about some of his trials and tribulations before enlightenment, but we know that they occurred because every unenlightened being is going to experience that, including Jesus is going to experience difficulties and struggles. What the Buddha tended to focus on, and he made this very clear, is that he was only going to teach the things that are going to lead to your enlightenment. So while he learned and he knew all these other things, he only taught this small amount of things that it's going to take to get to your enlightenment, because that's enough for you to learn. That's enough to really focus on. And he gave this great analogy. He was walking through the forest, and he said he picked up a few leaves, and he said, "What is more, monks, the leaves in all of the trees overhead, or these leaves in my hand?" And he said, well, of course, all those leaves overhead in all the forest, that's way more than the few insignificant leaves that you've picked up in your hands. And he said, so too is the wisdom that I've cultivated, that all the leaves and all the trees represent all the wisdom that I've cultivated throughout my journey to enlightenment. But these leaves in my hands are what I'm going to focus on teaching you, because that's what actually leads to enlightenment. So he definitely had trials and tribulations, but you don't hear much about it because he focused on these few leaves. But he also does talk about generosity extensively, where he talks about how in his current life, in his previous lives as well, he practiced extensive amounts of generosity. And he talks about that as a real catalyst to be able to help him get to enlightenment. And that's why he taught generosity, because he knew it was what helped him to get to enlightenment, and it was good. You were going to need to practice it as well in order to be able to get to enlightenment.
Thanks, David. Much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe I want to ask that, do you think that when someone has the ability to practice in merits all the time, does it mean that he is actually a little bit like being privileged to a certain degree? Like, what if people who are having inadequate possessions that can only support his like minimum living requirements, or like people who trapped in their previous traumas and have very fragile mental conditions and are not be properly taught about how to practicing merits? Does it mean that they have less chances of practicing merits and make their way to enlightenment compared to others?
Yeah, so someone who's had what is referred to as trauma in the past, this is just the mind holding on to an experience that they had in the past, and now they're forming feelings on it based on today. And this is impermanent. An individual can train their mind to let go. So if somebody experienced something very traumatic, let's just say like a sexual abuse, and now in the present moment they're having all this sadness and despair about that, sorrow, they can actually train their mind to not form feelings today based on things that happened in the past. But the mind lacks wisdom of how to do that in the unenlightened state. So the teachings of the Buddha are here to be able to help somebody like that and anybody else who's interested in experiencing harmonious relationships and improvement to the condition of their mind to be able to overcome those kinds of things. So it's learning and practicing the teachings that's going to help somebody overcome that. And part of overcoming that is practicing generosity. And then ultimately, if someone would like to practice generosity to have this merit to be able to enhance the quality of their mind and cultivate wisdom, they can do that too. It's a choice for them to make. So the person who I refer to these individuals as disadvantaged, as someone who's maybe impoverished, right? Because generational poverty is very difficult to work your way out of. If somebody's in that kind of situation, they can actually still practice generosity and they can still practice merit, because it's not about giving money, right? That's not what this topic is about. It's not about just giving money, and it's not about the amount of money that you give. It's not like this rich person who can give $10,000 a month to a temple is somehow going to be better off than this person who's sweeping the leaves in the parking lot, right? Because merit is merit. It's the frequency, not the amount, that is going to produce the beneficial results. So everybody and anybody can practice generosity in one way or another, even just sharing your food, like the Buddha was talking about, or any number of things that an individual could share. So you would like to look at the frequency of your giving and sharing versus the amount. And even someone who lacks resources, they can share their time and their effort. Walking into the store, they can open the door for the person behind them. You know, these are things that take 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and now this is a practice of generosity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so let me see if we have any questions online here. Okay, I don't see any questions online. I don't see any more. Oh, you have one, Gala? Yeah.
Yes. When sharing the teachings or a video or a book with other people, I don't see that as directly giving to the community. Is that merit?
Yeah, so the producing merit is to provide time, effort, energy, and resources for other people to get access to the teachings of the Buddha, right? So if you gave someone a book, for example, that's helping somebody get access to the teachings. So that's merit. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
So you mentioned about the skills to practice on a daily basis, and I was wondering, for meditation, there is a easy way to beginners to start practicing it, which you mentioned that is and up to 30 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if there is a similar bite-size kind of box to tick on generosity, which you could keep in mind, so you could treat it as a skill acquisition and practice on a daily basis.
Yeah, there's no kind of like criteria like that, like 2 or 3 times a day for 30 minutes or more, like there is with meditation, because your generosity, you need to practice from the middle way. Some days you might be busy going to the hospital to take care of your mom and dad, and you're really active in doing that. And other days you're not doing that, and you have more time to be able to do other things. So your generosity is going to ebb and flow. Being in the middle doesn't mean that you kind of lock onto it and you just do it this way all the time. But you would like to practice generosity. So like even in that situation where you're going to the hospital to help your parents, again, as you're walking into the hospital, you can be opening the door. You can even helping your parents in the hospital. That's actually generosity itself, right? Because you're not required to help your parents in the hospital. The only thing we're required to do in this life is die. That's it. That's the only thing we have to do. Everything else is optional. So even going to the hospital to help your parents, that's generosity itself. It's not merit, but it's generosity, right? So you would like to be frequently practicing generosity. So let's just say, for example, somebody was going to give 100 baht a day, right? $3 a day. What would be wise is to break that up. That's one of the reasons why in Thailand you see these donation boxes all over the place, like in grocery stores and malls and things like this. You'll see donation boxes everywhere because it provides everyone the opportunity to let go, because that's one of the big things that people will have attachment to is their money. They'll tend to hold on to their money very tightly. So if somebody was going to give, say, 100 baht a day, they would be wise to give maybe 10 or 20 baht per donation box throughout their day in order to train their mind to more frequently let go. So whether it's your time, effort, energy, or resources, you're going to need to find a way to frequently be giving. Maybe you're coming out of your house and your neighbor's trash is blown all over the yard, and maybe they're not even home. Maybe they're on vacation. You could just take 5 minutes to clean that up and put it away, and you don't even have to tell them that you did it, right? Because this is without any expectation of anything in return. That's practicing generosity, because the mind's going to want to go and do things for me. But you see this situation, you can do these kinds of things. So there isn't any criteria like that. I know, like, since some of you guys have mentioned Christian teachings, I know like in the Catholic Church, I think they suggest 10% of your income to give to the church. The Buddha never did that kind of thing, because there's nothing like that is permanent, because your financial needs and the needs that you need to spend your time and effort and energy on your personal things, it's going to change. And there's going to be some days where you need to spend a lot of time on your personal things. And then there's other days where you don't need to spend as much time on those things, and you can direct some of that towards helping other people. And you need to have the freedom of choice to be able to make those choices for yourself without somebody else telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing. And that's part of the wisdom that you'll be able to then navigate and make decisions for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Everything in the teachings of the Buddha is about freedom of choice, and you making choices that you know to be wise for yourself, and understanding your life and where you're at any one particular time, and making the wisest decisions for yourself. So I don't see any other questions anywhere. So the way that I tend to like to end this talk is to just thank all of you guys for coming to learn and grow and develop. But this particular talk, I like to say thank you for any generosity that you practice with me. There's students who come here that sweep the floor, that take out the trash, that clean the bathrooms, that provide financial support. There's people that are interested in seeing you get access to these teachings, and there's people who support what I'm doing here. And I like to just give you an extra special thank you for any generosity that you share with me to be able to help me to help you, because that's what offerings do. That when you're helping to keep the center nice and you're helping to keep the classroom nice, it's actually helping me to help you. So thank you for any generosity that you share with me. And at the same time, I'd like you to know that I never have any expectation that a student will practice generosity with me. I'm here to help you regardless of what you ever choose to do or not do. My love and my support for you is unconditional. I'm willing to help you no matter what. So anytime you would like help from me, all you need to do is reach out, and I'm here to help you. But if you have chosen to help me to help you, I really appreciate that. But just know that it's never expected. It's never required. No matter where I am in the world, you can always come and learn with me at no cost. I'm pleased to help you for the rest of your life and the rest of my life at no cost. So feel free to reach out anytime you need help. And I'll share with you guys some things that are coming up that you guys can get further help. Is this evening at 6:30 in the main temple hall, we're going to be doing a guided meditation, and we're going to be opening up for questions for students to ask anything you would like about the teachings of the Buddha. So as you guys probably know, on Sundays, there's the walking market. So there's going to be lots of shopping and food and all this stuff out here. If you'd like to swing by the temple at 6:30, we're going to do a meditation. So maybe you make that part of your evening to do a meditation in the main hall. So you and your friends and your family and anybody you interact with, you guys are more than welcome to come on Sunday, which is today, at 6:30 p.m. in the main hall. So you're welcome to join that. And then this Wednesday, I'm also going to be teaching here at 9 a.m. So you're welcome to come here at 9 a.m. if you'd like. I have classes on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 9 a.m. here at the temple, and I live stream those. And then at 9 p.m., I do it from home, and I live stream those as well. So no matter where you are in the world, there's a live class for you. And then if you miss the live classes, it's recorded on YouTube, Facebook, and on our podcast, so you can get access to it that way too. So if you'd like help to overcome the difficulties and struggles and challenges that are experienced in the unenlightened mind, where you're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and stress and anxiety and all these things, there's help for you. You just need to decide you're interested in that help and reach out, and I'm here to help you. And everything's available to you at no cost, whether it's the books or audiobooks, videos, podcasts, classes, courses, retreats, personal guidance, and all these things. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Take care and be well. Sawadee Khap. Sawadee Khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.